Has anyone ever asked you, have you played this game yet? And you've had to say, nah, not yet. And you look back at them and they're just staring at you, shocked. And in that moment, you feel like your whole identity as a gamer is being questioned. I have had that too. I've been gaming for 25 years and I still haven't played some of the biggest and most loved games ever made. And I know I'm not alone. We've all got a few masterpieces just sitting in our backlog, quietly making us feel guilty. So today, I want to confess some of the biggest games gathering dust in my backlog, but I also want to unpack some of the invisible reasons to why games sit there, and hopefully make us both feel a little bit less ashamed about the ones we haven't played yet. The first thing we need to do is point out some of the invisible factors that are affecting us when it comes to getting through games on our backlog. One of the most glaring that comes up quite often is the sheer volume of games released in any given year. If you take a month off or two, there are at least 4 or 5 must-play games that have just dropped out of nowhere, and then you add TV shows, films, books, podcasts, YouTube videos, and then all of your free time disappears because we're not always playing games. It's hard to keep up now. When I was younger, it was really easy to do this because I had a lot of unlimited time, but now it's highly unrealistic. And it always feels like as time goes on, certain games become mandatory, especially if they are critically acclaimed or loved by a big audience. Games like The Witcher 3 or FromSoft games or massive JRPGs, they've become a part of this must-play list that is expected from everyone, otherwise your credentials as a gamer is kind of questioned a little bit. The conversation has gone from, hey, you might love this, to, how have you not played this game? Are you crazy? In many ways, you feel like you've skipped a chapter in a book if you haven't played any of these games, or missed something crucial in time, like you've missed the 5th gym badge in Pokemon before getting the 7th one. But then you have the extra invisible factors that we don't actually think about too often. Maybe we don't have time to commit to a 60 to 100 hour game. You might not be in the right mood or emotional state to play a particular genre or a really punishing game, or maybe you're burnt out on a particular genre. What about your own tastes? Have you ever just bounced off of a story game or a combat system that everybody loves? Have you ever tried to play a 100-hour JRPG and thought, I'm not going to finish this, am I? This has happened way too many times to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you as well. Then there's the simple practical stuff. Have you ever not owned a particular console growing up, or missed a sale on a game, or even just not be financially able to afford a specific game despite how many sales we have at the moment? I feel like a lot of us miss these things because we don't slow down and analyze these factors. We can be sucked into the emotional element of having a backlog, which is mainly guilt and anxiety. There are also other feelings you might experience. The nagging voice in the back of your head saying, you should have played this already, why haven't you? You also get this FOMO voice saying, look at what you're missing out on, whilst everyone else is having fun, which happens a lot. Or you get the pressure of a game becoming a requirement rather than entertainment. But the truth is, none of this actually makes you less of a gamer. If you haven't beaten a game that everybody else has, it doesn't make you anything less. You are human at the end of the day, and sometimes you don't vibe with something. Sometimes you're not able to play a specific game because you don't enjoy it as much. All of these invisible factors impact us. They lead to a big, messed up relationship with our own backlogs. But if you don't believe me, I'll prove it to you by walking through a few games in my own pile of shame and why they are sitting there. Okay, let's start with the big one. Red Dead Redemption 2. The first reason that Red Dead Redemption 2 is sitting there and has been for a long time was that I was a completely different type of gamer back in 2018 when this launched. I was 100% in my Destiny 2 phase, locked into the eternal carrot on the stick chase, and in that gameplay loop for many, many hours. I did try Red Dead at the time, and I played maybe 4 or 5 hours, but I really couldn't connect with it at all. But it wasn't just Red Dead Redemption 2's fault. Around that time, I was really struggling to click with almost any single player game that didn't grab me immediately, and from my experience talking to people, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a very big slow burn. The second reason is down to mood. I need to be in the right frame of mind to commit to this type of game, because I've been told by friends and the internet that it's one of the best stories of all time. If I'm going to give this its actual credit that it deserves and a proper chance, I need to sit down and be in the right frame of mind for a slower paced, story driven Western. And all of this leads into the real killer for me, which is time. On paper, it's at least 50 hours to complete the main story of Red Dead Redemption 2. But let's be honest, nobody really plays a Rockstar game just for the main story. You will hunt animals, you'll play poker, you'll ride around, you'll hogtie people. In GTA, you'll do any number of things outside of the main story. You experience all of that game. So with all the new games that I'm excited about on the horizon and GTA 6 looming, I honestly don't know if or when I will properly play Red Dead Redemption 2. And as much as it pains me to say that, I've made peace with it. Somewhere out there is definitely a cowboy though pointing a gun at the back of my head for saying that. The next game is a glaring omission in my RPG history, and that's Fallout New Vegas. Considering I enjoy both Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, it's kind of hilarious that I've not really touched this one, and everyone calls this particular title the best in the series. I love RPGs, I love exploring the wasteland, and I love making difficult, morally ambiguous choices that you do in the Fallout games. So why have I never played it? Picture 2010 Jimbo. That summer I had just finished hitting all of the achievements on Fallout 3 with all of the DLC. By the time New Vegas came out in the October of that year, I was pretty burnt out on anything Fallout at that point. But I would be lying to you if I didn't say that was my only reason. My real focus was on another game, Halo Reach. I was a 14-year-old kid, buckets load of time, obsessed with PvP and playing with my friends, beating Legendary with my friends, and living as a Spartan every single day. By the time I had finished school and wrapped up my addiction with Reach, which I still kind of got in the back of my mind, the New Vegas boat had sailed. Flash forward to now, and playing it for the first time feels a little complicated. I've heard that the game still has so many bugs to the point where you need to have a ton of mods to get it to work properly, which is so much extra effort if I'm going to be going back to playing a game. I've also seen enough videos of the lore and essays of why it's the best Bethesda RPG that a fresh playthrough might feel like I'm looking for it to live up to that reputation. So I've ended up in this weird limbo. I'm quietly holding out for a New Vegas that gets the full Oblivion remake treatment like we did last year, and I was hoping that it would be shadow dropped at the finale of Season 2 of Fallout. But no. Thanks, Bethesda. At this point, I'm not sure if I'll ever go back and play it. Feeling like I have to play this doesn't exactly get me in the mood to play it all the time. It just feels mandatory. But maybe one day I'll sit down, play it, and find out if the game was truly rigged from the start. You can probably tell by now that a couple of games in the backlog are ones that are well known, and I may actually like them, but somehow they have just been there for over a decade. So the next one that's gathering dust won't come as a shock to any of you. That is Bloodborne. For the last 10 years, it's been memed, it's been worshipped, and it's been discussed at great lengths, and it almost feels irresponsible that I've not played it. Bloodborne, however, sits in this really weird gap in my relationship with Souls-likes. On one side is Dark Souls, the first one I actually finished in 2019. Beating that ticked a massive box for me and gave me the confidence to try the genre and take it seriously. I dabbled a little bit with Dark Souls 3 after that, but I didn't truly fall in love with the genre until Elden Ring. After beating all the base game bosses at the start of 2024, the genre finally clicked with me. Bloodborne sits between both of them. Granted, it was released in 2015, so it doesn't exactly line up with those two times of games being released, but this is where the practicality factor comes into play that I mentioned earlier. I didn't own a PS4 until much later in its life cycle, and even when I did, I hadn't really connected with the genre yet. So I basically missed the window to play Bloodborne. The same with New Vegas and Red Dead Redemption 2. However, I feel like going back to it now has its problems. Elden Ring feels like the pinnacle for me. Going back to Bloodborne today will feel a little rough, maybe a little bit less refined, so I may end up bouncing off it, which I'm worried about. I've also built up this expectation of the game in my head after a long time of hearing people saying it's a masterpiece. There is this fear that it won't live up to those expectations, similar to Fallout, which I know is a silly mindset, because why would I be disappointed if something is really good and not necessarily like mind-blowing? But I think the biggest thing that is holding me back from playing Bloodborne is the technical side of things. There is still no modern port for this game, and it's been rejected by Miyazaki many times, which if I was to play it now means I have to go back to 30 FPS gameplay. Every Souls game that I've played was on PC, so I never really had that problem. I also felt like it was as smooth as anything, and in a reaction heavy game, 30 FPS would be something I'm not really itching to go back to. Call me a graphics snob, frame rate snob, all you like, but I know I'm not the only one who thinks like this, and people have been begging for a 60 FPS update for years, or even a remake that, we all want as well. The thing is, I know I would enjoy Bloodborne. I've seen it in so many different streams, speed runs, challenge runs, that I am content with it for now of seeing most of the game, but that doesn't really give you that true experience of it. It sits on my backlog currently with the explicit hope that it finally gets a modern console remake or a port to PC or a remaster so I can experience the dark world of Yharnam. Sadly, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. The last game is a little bit different because it's not necessarily about time or hardware, it's about paralysis and timing, similar to the other games I've spoken about. I completely missed Final Fantasy VII growing up. I actually had a PS1, but I was far too young to properly get into the series, let alone understand the game's message. It's only been since I got older that I realized Final Fantasy VII has had a massive cultural impact for so many RPG fans. I know briefly things about different characters and why they are significant, so I want to understand it and I want to understand why people love it so much. The problem is, I don't know how to approach the game now. Do I go back to the original version and experience it as it was, which I'd have to prepare myself for because it's obviously a really old school style of combat, which I do actually like turn-based games. On the other hand, do I wait for the remake trilogy to finish its course and then play all three of them back to back? And the issue here is I'm going to have to wait a long time for that to happen, and then eventually for it to come to PC as well. And I'm also worried because the new combat system in those games isn't the classic turn-based system. It's a hybrid of action abilities that I'm not 100% sold on. I'd be worried that I'd bounce off the game and not give the story its credit, because gameplay is a massive thing for me. So Final Fantasy VII has this weird place in my backlog. I know I want to play it, but I just have no idea when or which version is the right way to do it. And it's not just these three games that I'm talking about. There's a whole host of games that I still haven't played. There's a whole series, Devil May Cry, Yakuza, the Resident Evil franchise, Darksiders, and so many iconic games that I just want to play, but I've never really found the right time to, or in the right mood to. The whole point of this video isn't to sit and look at all the games that I haven't played, or even analyze your own backlog. Every game on your list has a reason behind why you've missed it, or it could be any number of things that we have looked at: timing, money, mood, burnout, etc. We're the ones who turn it into shame, anxiety, and guilt for not completing it, whether that's new games or very old games. That weird feeling of not playing a certain game will make us lose some form of credibility in other people's eyes, never really goes away until you actually do the thing. I definitely feel that sting, especially with the games that I've mentioned today, but I'm trying to flip my perspective on it. Instead of treating my backlog as this list of failures or things to catch up on, I'm trying to see it as much more opportunities to play some great games in the future. In my opinion, I think it's a much more exciting way to look at it, because gaming is supposed to be fun at the end of the day, a hobby, entertainment, whatever it is for you. The belief that we'll catch up at some point should be more motivating than demoralizing. My goal moving forward is to have a healthier relationship with gaming in general, and it starts with me being honest about my backlog and being okay with it. But let me know, do you have any games that you're ashamed of, and which of the games on this list should I play first? Let me know down in the comment section. Check out the end screen for any of my other content, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the videos. And as always, this has been Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.